Hi friends, my name is Millie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you my July TBR. So in July I don't really have any major reading plans. Last month was Pride Month, so I was really aiming to read a lot of LGBTQIA+ books, and in April I wanted to do my sort of NetGalley challenge, but in July I don't really have any specific reading plans, so I've kind of just gone with what I'm in the mood for. There is one reread on this list that I want to achieve this month, which I feel like has to go on the TBR, even though it's technically a reread. So shall we just get started? Let's start off with Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. So this one I really want to read in July because I haven't read a new Ali Hazelwood in a while. Obviously I read Bride earlier this year. That was late January perhaps I read that, and I really enjoyed it, but I haven't read an Ali Hazelwood contemporary romance in quite a while, not since I read Love Theoretically last June I believe it was, and I loved Love Theoretically. That was a 5-star read for me, absolute top tier romance. So I have really high hopes for Not in Love. This is another STEMinist romance from Ali Hazelwood, of course the queen of STEMinist romances, and I am very excited. This cover is very shiny, which I love, but this one is Enemies with Benefits, which is interesting. It says, Rue Sibert might not have it all, but she has enough. A few friends she can always count on, the financial stability she yearned for as a kid, and a successful career as a biotech engineer at Klein, one of the most promising startups in the field of food science. Her world is stable, pleasant, and hard-fought, until a hostile takeover and its offensively attractive front man threatens to bring it all crumbling down. Eli Kilgore and his business partners want Klein, period. Eli has his own reasons for pushing this deal through, and he's a man who gets what he wants, with one burning exception, Rue. The woman he can't stop thinking about, the woman who's off limits to him. Torn between loyalty and an undeniable attraction, Rue and Eli throw caution out the lab and the boardroom windows. Their affair is secret, no strings attached, and it has a built-in deadline, the day one of their companies will prevail. But the heart is risky business, one that plays for keeps. It sounds amazing. I love the sound of that. I also love the pink cover of this one, very aesthetically pleasing, and I'm always here for a new Ali Hazelwood romance. I just love her so much. I know that a lot of people kind of complain that she follows a formula, that her books are all the same, and yes, she does follow a formula. And yes, her books are arguably very similar, with a very short woman, a very tall, broad man, but they do always hit. They do always hit, so what's not to love, you know? Speaking of romances, this brings us on to what my reread that I want to achieve this month is, and that is rereading Beach Read by Emily Henry. And I know what you're going to say, Millie, Emily Henry is your favourite author. Beach Read is your favourite Emily Henry book. Why do you need to reread it? You know you love it. And yes, I know I love it. That's why I want to reread it. I have essentially bought one of my best friends this to read while she's on holiday, and it's put me in the mood to read it myself. I've only read this once before, which, considering I do consider this to be probably my favourite book, is kind of offensive that I've only read it once. So I really want to reread it, and I feel like while one of my best friends is reading it, is the perfect time for me to delve back into the world of January and Gus. And I just love them so much. Beach Read is Emily Henry's first book, and in my opinion her best work still. I adore it so much. It follows two writers and they decide to swap genres for a summer and see who can write the bestseller. So one of them is a literary fiction writer and has to write romance, the other is a romance writer and has to write literary fiction. And it is just incredible. It is absolutely outstanding. I love it so much. I adore it. There is not enough words for how much I love Beach Read and how much I love Emily Henry. So I do feel like I need to reread it. I feel like it's time. And it has been either nearly 2 years or nearly 3 years since I first read it, which is it's just shameful. I can't believe I haven't reread it since then. And hopefully, as long as the weather sorts itself out, because today it's looking miserable, as long as the weather is nice and sunny, it will be the perfect time for me to read this. I think I read it literally in like almost one sitting the first time I read it, so hopefully I'll be able to achieve that again. I can't wait to reread this and to just go back to January and Gus. I love them. The next book is kind of it's not one that I would have necessarily picked up for myself. It's The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, and I was actually bought this for Christmas by a colleague, and I definitely would not have picked this up if I hadn't been bought it, but it's on my 24 books to read in 2024 because I feel like it is something so different to what I would normally choose that it's definitely one I want to read this year, because otherwise if I just keep putting it off, I'm never going to pick it up. And I feel like now's the perfect time. It is a bit intimidating, it's quite large, but this one is The Faun of Camor is said to be an unbeatable swordsman, a master thief, a friend to the poor, a ghost that walks through walls. Slightly built and barely competent with a sword, Loch Lamora is, much to his annoyance, the fabled faun. And while Loch does indeed steal from the rich, who else would be worth stealing from, the poor never see a penny. All of Loch's gains are strictly for himself and his tight-knit band of thieves, the gentlemen bastards. The capricious, colourful underworld of the ancient city of Camor is the only home they've ever known, but now a clandestine war is threatening to tear it apart. Caught up in a murderous game, Loch and his friends are suddenly struggling just to stay alive. I'm intrigued. It's definitely not one that I would have picked up for myself. It's not one that I would have gone, oh yeah, I really need to read that. But because my colleague chose it for me, and my colleague is like an expert at hand selling books to people and know what books people need to read, like he's literally an expert in it, I am intrigued. And I do want to pick it up. I'm intimidated. I am intimidated. It seems like it's going to be a bit dense. And I do have another really dense fantasy book on this TBR as well, so we'll see if I'm able to actually get through both of those. Obviously, the trouble with me making TBR videos, slight little spin-off here, is that I'm a very much a mood reader, so chances are I'll probably only get around to reading like 2 or 3 books off of this TBR before I choose other things that I'm in the mood for reading. But hopefully I'll be able to stick to it. Maybe that should be my challenge one month, is just to like make myself a whole 20 book TBR and force myself to stick to it. But I just love a good mood read. I just love picking up whatever I'm in the mood for, so we'll see if I get around to reading The Lies of Loch Lamora or whether I'll psych myself out. The next book on this TBR is The Gentlest of Wild Things by Sarah Underwood. This is the second book from the author of Lies We Sing to the Sea, which I haven't read, but that is a Greek mythology retelling. I believe it's to do with the Odyssey. I'm not sure. I know that there was quite a lot of controversy around that book when it came out because it was revealed that the author had not read the original text before writing it, or hadn't read all of it at least. But I do see so many people saying how much they love the book, so I'm kind of torn between where I would stand on that issue. Gentlest of Wild Things, I don't know what it's about, honestly, but I love the cover. That is very cool. And on the back it says, on the island of Zakynthos, nothing is more powerful than desire. Love itself, bottled and sold by Leandros, a power-hungry descendant of the god Eros. Irene has always managed to escape desire's thrall, until fate places her directly in the path of Leandros and the strange, mesmerising daughter he keeps locked away. That sounds really good. I am intrigued by that. I don't know anything else about it though. So I don't know if it's like kind of Eros and Psyche inspired. I don't know. But I'm intrigued. I'm here for it. Love the cover. And I love a bit of Greek mythology. So I'm excited for that. The other dense fantasy book that is on this TBR, and one that I do feel I really need to read in July because I'm worried that I will forget what happened in the first book, is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Mistborn era, like the first Mistborn era, which is a series set in the Cosmere, which is Brandon Sanderson's sort of universe of books, kind of like the multiverse. And in the Final Empire, you're following Kelsier, and he wants to overrule or sort of create a revolution against the Lord Ruler, who has ruled over the Scar and everybody else for 1,000 years, and the Scar just live in misery essentially, and Kelsier wants to change that. So he sort of gets together a little group of people, and these people are all allomancers. So allomancers, they have control over metal, and normally you can only control one metal, and that metal gives you a certain power. It could be invisibility, it could be flight, etc. But Kelsier can actually control multiple, and when he finds Vin, who is a thief, he realises that she can also control multiple metals as well. And Once Used is just an epic fantasy. It is truly amazing. There is so much detail that goes on. I could not even explain all of it if I tried, which is why I really want to read The Well of Ascension soon, because I read The Final Empire in May and I didn't pick up any more Brandon Sanderson books in June, but I'm worried that I will start to forget what happened because so much happened in The Final Empire if I don't read the sequel as soon as possible. However, this one is very intimidating because it's massive. This one is about 760 pages long, which is very intimidating, and obviously they only get bigger. Brandon Sanderson's books are massive, so massive that a lot of them have to be split into 2 parts, kind of like George R. R. Martin. So yeah, there's so much going on that I really need to pick up The Well of Ascension soon so that I can remember all that's going on, and also so I can remember who the characters are as well. The Final Empire ended in a very brutal way, in a way that I was really not expecting it to, so I'm very scared for what's going to happen in The Well of Ascension. But I do love this world and these characters after only reading 1 book, and I love Brandon Sanderson's writing after only reading 1 book. I cannot wait to continue my Brandon Sanderson journey throughout this year, read the Stormlight Archive, which I know is so many people's favourite of his, so I'm very excited to pick up The Well of Ascension. I'm very intimidated by it as well. We then have a couple of Fairy Loot books that I'd like to pick up, and really this is because I'm very behind on my Fairy Loot books, on book boxes in general. I very rarely tend to pick one up, and that's so bad because obviously I'm paying for these and they are such gorgeous editions that I do really want to get around to reading them. I just never end up seeming to do that. So the first of which is a very recent Fairy Loot book, and that is The Temptation of Magic by Megan Scott. This was the Fairy Loot YA book for May, and I'm very intrigued. This is like a fantasy romance, and you are following Nicole, who is an Imperial. She has the ability to kill any deadly supernatural. But if her power ever awakened the Wake, the organisation that governs supernaturals would force her to be their loyal huntress or kill her like they did her mother. To stay safe, Nicole hides in a small university town, convinced the mythological art collection at a local manor contains a final message from her mother. But before she can study it, Kyan McCarter, the Wake's most skilled Imperial, arrives on his own hunt. When Nicole and Kyan discover that Kyan's prey has stolen a painting for leverage, they're forced to work together. As the creature threatens to expose Nicole's powers, her tenuous alliance with Kyan threatens her heart. If her true identity is revealed, Kyan will hunt her next. No one disobeys the Wake and survives, especially when the art they're seeking unveils a conspiracy that would change the lives of creatures and humans forever. But Nicole may only be able to resist one, her wicked impulses, or a love that would repaint her world. And after a life of hiding her true nature, who could resist the temptation of magic? That's very intriguing. I love the sound of that. It's kind of like Dark Academia vibes, I feel, especially the end papers of this gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. Very pretty. So I'm intrigued by that, and I know a lot of people have said that they really loved this book. I feel like it's gotten quite a lot of praise considering it's a debut, so I'm very excited to read this, and I'm very excited to cross off another book box book from my TBR. Speaking of book box books, the other one that I have on my TBR is kind of a impulse choice, and that is Son of Blood and Ruin by Marielle Lorez. This is kind of an impulse choice because I just saw it on my shelves. I have it shelved out with the bird sprayed edges facing outwards because I just think that is so pretty, and I just kind of saw it on my shelves and I was like, you know what, I actually do really fancy reading that. I love the green, of course. Green is my favourite colour, so you know that helps, but I want to know what's going on with this bird. I'm not sure what this one's about, so I'm going to have to read you the synopsis of this one as well. This was actually the Fairy Loot pick in September 2023, so it hasn't been too long since we've had it, but it has been nearly a year now, so I do really need to pick it up. It says, the empire of Moctezuma II has long fallen, a city raised on the bones of Tenochtitlan. I'm so sorry if I've butchered that pronunciation. None dare whisper the names of their gods, or speak of the magic that once graced the land, of the witches who hunted as jaguars, the warriors who soared as eagles, until a new name emerges, a curse on the lips of the Spanish, a hero in the hearts of the people, a masked vigilante, a sorceress with a blade, Pantera. But that is not her only name. To all who know her, Leonora is a glittering jewel of court, promised to be the heir of the Spanish throne. The respectable Lady Leonora faints at the sight of blood and would sooner be caught dead than wield a sword, even against a dauntless thief with a cutting smile. No one suspects that Leonora and Pantera are one and the same. Leonora has fooled them all, and with the magic of her ancestors running through her veins, she is nearly invincible, until an ancient prophecy of destruction threatens and she is forced to decide, surrender the mask or her life. But the legendary Pantera is destined for more than an early grave, and once she discovers the truth of her origins, not even death will stop her. That sounds amazing. I love the sound of that. The only thing that worries me is because I haven't heard many people talking about this book, even though it was a Fairy Loot pick. So I'm not sure how well received it was at all. I don't know if it has any fans or not, but that does sound so much fun. I love the sound of that so much. I'm really glad that I have actually picked this up on an impulse. I'm very intrigued by this. And the final book on my TBR is actually the book I'm going to be reading next after my current read. It's Powerless by Lauren Roberts. So I really picked this up because of FOMO. Everyone that I know, everyone I see in the shop, everyone on Bookstagram, on TikTok has been reading Powerless. It is absolutely everywhere. It seems to be non-stop that people are reading it and buying it. And I had to join in. So I asked for this for my birthday and I was lucky enough to receive this, and I know that Violet is going to be reading this soon as well, so it's kind of like a little buddy read almost. And on the top it says hunted, hunter, destined for each other, and I believe that it's basically about a girl who lives in this kingdom where only people with magical abilities are allowed to reside, and she pretends that she has these psychic abilities, but she doesn't. She's actually ordinary, and being ordinary will get you banished. And she accidentally ends up saving one of the princes of the kingdom, and so she's thrown into this sort of trial which showcases the best of the elite's abilities. So she's got to somehow survive that, and everyone loves this. I don't know a single person who's read this and didn't enjoy it, so I'm very, very excited for this. And really I did just pick it up because I saw everybody else was reading it and I just felt like I was missing out. I really needed to get this. So that brings us to the end of my July TBR. These are all of the books that were on there. That's quite an intimidating stack. There are some really big books on there, so that does frighten me a little bit, but I'm intrigued by a lot of these. And obviously, as I said, I am a mood reader, so the chances are some of these are probably not going to get read. You know, what can you do? But the ones that I do really want to focus on reading are Beach Read, Powerless, and The Well of Ascension, because those are the ones that I feel I need to read the soonest, even though I've already read Beach Read before. But I just love Emily Henry. Let me know if you would recommend any of the books on my TBR, if you've read any of them, what you thought of them, and let me know also what's on your July TBR as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you'd like to follow me on my Goodreads or on my Bookstagram, the links to those will be down in the description. Like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna, and I will see you in another video soon.